With the Formula 3000 Drivers' Championship clinched for the year 2003 and the season's end fast approaching, we are posed with the question, what's next? Which drivers will take the next step to Formula 1 or kart? Which drivers will return to tackle the Formula 3000 Challenge for another season? And which drivers have reached their peak and will sadly fall into obscurity? Now is the time to prove yourself worthy of taking the next step. Round 9 from Hungary is next.
Hello and welcome to the Hungaroring near Budapest, Hungary for the 9th round of the International Formula 3000 Championship. I'm Rick DeBull alongside David Hobbs and Steve Matchett. You know, it's been 3 weeks since the last Formula 3000 race from Hockenheim, so we're going to take a quick minute and recap what happened in round number 8. It was at Hockenheim, and championship leader Bjorn Wirdheim needed to leave Germany with a 21-point lead to clinch the title. Now he starts third, but immediately he was able to get by Antonio Liuzzi at the start of the race for second place.
Which means all he needs now is for second place Giorgio Pantano to finish 4th or worse, which he will, thanks to this incident between Enrico Toccacello and Pantano. Pantano dropped down to 7th, Toccacello was out.
Now Liuzzi tried to get second from Wirdheim, but he ends up losing a place to teammate Patrick Friesacher, dropping Liuzzi off the podium as it ended up. Meanwhile, Townsend Bell, the only American left in Formula 3000, makes a nice move right there to take 5th place. That's ultimately where he was able to finish up.
Jaroslav Yanis tried to make a move on Zolt Baumgartner for 8th. They touched and Zolt holds on to 8th. Jaroslav spins around till a few laps later, when Zolt goes wide, and Yanis does get the 8th and final points-paying spot.
Meanwhile, up front, Riccardo Sparrofico led flag to flag for his 2nd victory of the year, the 3rd of his career. Patrick Friesacher held off teammate Antonio Liuzzi for 3rd, but the big story was the man who finished 2nd. Bjorn Wirdheim, by virtue of his 2nd place finish, became the Formula 3000 winner for the 2003 season. Flag-to-flag victory for Riccardo Sparrofico, his 2nd of the year, as he held off Wirdheim and Patrick Friesacher. Take a look at the results from that race. We said Sparrofico was the winner, but Wirdheim the big winner, David.
Absolutely. Patrick Friesacher, of course, coming back after that broken arm in Spain at the beginning of the season. Liuzzi there had started on the pole. Townsend Bell having a good result there in 5th. Tony Schmidt in the Aston Martin car in 6th spot. Pantano, who had needed those points, unfortunately got spun around, finished in 7th. Picked up a couple of points. Jaroslav Yanis picked up the last point. Zolt Baumgartner, who of course is taking part in tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix for Jordan, finished 9th. Jim Maria, Schroeder and Langhorn not in today's race.
Michael Cohane ended up finishing 15th, another guy who's going to be missing in action today as the money has run out. Let's take a look at the points. We talked about Bjorn Wirdheim. He won the championship by coming away with a 23-point gap. But check out the battle for second.
Absolutely, the battle for second. Sparrofico, Pantano, Liuzzi, Toccacello, even down as far as obviously not Nicolas Chiesa, because he too is in the Grand Prix this weekend.
Townsend Bell picked up some points, and he is now moved up. He's in a tie for 10th with Rafael Jean-Maria.
And qualifying quite well today, so he could pick up some more valuable points today and jump 4 or 5 places on the ladder there, which would be great for Townsend.
Those are the driver points. There's the team.
T points. Yeah, it's pretty much over. Really, Arden International looking good to take this championship, but it's still a 4-way battle with 18 points, 36 points to play yet. Cologne 3000, everybody below that, Jordan Grand Prix Junior, and the rest out of contention, of course. The ISR Charouz team and 4-old Brand Motorsports will not score any more points than Nor, because they're really not any longer a part of this series.
Unless, like the Phoenix, they rise again. Well, with the Drivers' Championship already to his credit, we wanted to know just exactly what plans Bjorn Wirdheim has for his future. So we sent Peter Windsor to find out. Peter?
Hard to believe with 2 races still to run, but Bjorn Wirdheim has already clinched the European Formula 3000 Championship for 2003. I spoke to him about that Hockenheim race and about his career ahead. Bjorn, first, congratulations. Just look back at Hockenheim. Was the win there for you, or would you have finished there anyway, regardless of what was going on in the championship?
Well, I was never going to challenge Ricardo for the win, of course, because I knew it would be enough probably with a second position, as long as Giorgio didn't score too many points.
So 3 weeks since that day, bit of time to think about that obviously, and also to think about your future. What are your plans at the moment?
Well, I'm doing some testing with Jordan in Formula 1 and with BAR as well. So it's been frustrating because it's been quite a long break between this race and Hockenheim.
What are your thoughts about America? Is that also a part of the world in which you would like to race?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an alternative for next season that we are looking at. It depends a little bit because the priority is to get into Formula 1, obviously. But I think if I don't get the right chance, I will consider going to USA into the kart championship because I think it's a good championship, and I think if you do well, then it should be possible to get back to Europe and do Formula 1.
But are you looking at the next step as one in which you have to take money with you, or do you think you can get a drive on merit?
Well, you know, I don't have any money or any sponsors to bring with me into Formula 1, so I'll have to get there on merit, and I'm happy to be able to get this chance to prove myself in a Formula 1 car, and hopefully if I do well enough, there will be a chance.
Well, the problem is, it doesn't seem like there are many chances out there for drivers who are not
many chances out there without Dosh.
No. Time for a quick break. When we come back, Peter Windsor will chat with a few more drivers to find out what they have planned for the 2004 season. Don't go away. Formula 3000 live on Speed Channel will return. Welcome back to the pre-race show for the 9th round of the Formula 3000 Championship. All right, we've heard from our champion about what he hopes to be doing next season. Now it's time to check in with some of the rest of the pack to see what those guys have plans. Peter?
Well, question marks obviously over the future of Bjorn Wirdheim. Let's hope he gets a decent drive either here or in the States. But also for other Formula 3000 regulars, Giorgio Pantano, Riccardo Sbarifico, they've been in this championship a long time. They too must now progress. What's 2004 looking like for you?
Well, I still not decide what I'm gonna do. I still need to do some good results in the last 2 races to see what's gonna happen. You know, it's quite a difficult moment. Every championship, Formula 1 or ever in America, is quite difficult. Nobody knows what's gonna happen. But well, let's see. We're quite confident to find a seat for next year.
I assume you don't want to do another season of 3000.
No, probably 3 years enough. I think if we didn't learn in 3 years, we're not gonna learn in 4 years.
At the moment, we didn't have any fixed idea what we're gonna do, but I want to do still the 3000, and how it's depending the things in Formula 1, then it can be changed the situation in 3000, but I'm planning to do another 3000 a year.
We'll just see what pans out. I mean, we've got a test coming up with British American Racing and Honda, and that's very exciting. So really looking forward to that. And then, you know, you've got September, October to see if anything shakes out in F1. But, you know, really the plan's to come back and do a second year of 3000. Unless something just came together, you never know. You have to leave that option open. That's the whole reason I'm here. So we'll just see what shakes out. But I think likely we'd be back here, and maybe there's a chance to do some testing along with that next season.
I absolutely want to be here next year. There's no doubt about it. You know, this team are fantastic. If I can be here with them, that would be great. I just want to build enough momentum in these last couple of races to at least have everyone know that I'm here and what I want to do next year.
Well, I'm going to try to get out for Monza, and really just come here and try to see if I could learn something while I'm here, and look at next year and try to see how the pit stops are working, and just try to get a step up while I can. If I can't race, I might as well be here learning something. So do my best and hopefully get out there in Monza, and my biggest goal is to be out there next year. So we've got to just work hard and put it together.
Hey I don't want to do another season Formula 3000 next year. Unfortunately, if there's nothing come up in Formula 1, for sure I'm going to see also in America what's going on there, and probably we find something there.
All right, Giorgio there says he really needs to make a move. You know, he's been racing in Formula 3000 since 2001, but he's compiled some pretty impressive numbers, David.
He has indeed. 6 victories there. He's on the front row today, so he could get another victory, although he's on the dirty side of the track. And look who's in front of him. Nick Heidfeld and Juan Pablo Montoya. Eric Comas right behind him. Thomas Enger also with 6 wins.
And look who he has more wins than. Bruno Junqueira, Roberto Moreno. Coming away with 6 victories in this series is not a bad thing to have, to your credit.
No, it just depends how long it takes you to get him.
Exactly.
But last year he was incredibly adept at overtaking. He's a great overtaker.
And take a look at points. Look who he is half a point behind in the lifetime points for Formula 3000. What's that guy's name? Montoya, something or another?
Something like that, yeah. But with 2 more races to go, he could easily top that table.
Now, you have to remember that this year the points were scored in a slightly different system, so that it's got a few extra in there built in. But still, all things considered, not bad.
And Bjorn Wirdheim, just behind Sebastian Bourdais, who's had a pretty good first year in kart. Justin Wilson there at 89 points. Also having his Jaguar, hopefully his race debut tomorrow. Didn't make a race debut 2 weeks ago in Germany, 3 weeks ago in Germany.
Time now for another break. When we come back, Peter Windsor is going to give us details about the latest rule change in F3000. If you haven't heard about it yet, you're going to want to hear about this one. Pit stops. We'll hear what the drivers think about that coming up in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Hungarian round of the F3000 Championship. You know, today's race will mark a first for the F3000 series. It will be the first time that pit stops are mandatory for all the drivers. So Peter Windsor caught up with Christian Horner to get all the details. Peter?
And a new regulation for this race, pit stops to be introduced sometime after lap 8. I spoke to Christian Horner of Arden International to see exactly why this was happening.
Yeah, it's anything from lap 8 onwards, restricted to 6 people working on the car, so you'll have 1 on each wheel, a front and rear jackman, and then in addition a lollipop guy to release the car. There'll be a mandatory 1 stop where all 4 wheels have to be changed, and that's basically it. It's down to the team when they do it from lap 8 onwards.
That's going to be an interesting thing. I think it's going to be hard work also for the mechanics, because it's a new situation, and it will be very difficult to the drivers to hold the speed limit, because we didn't have a limit like in Formula 1.
Do you think you've got perhaps a bit of an advantage? You've been through these race pit stops before?
Yeah, maybe just a little bit of knowing what to expect and what it's like on an out lap or in lap and all that kind of thing. But I mean, all these guys are smart enough to figure it out first time, I'm sure. The downside of all of this is that the faster drivers only have more chance of not finishing up front because a pit stop goes wrong. So it's kind of one of those things where this is supposedly a development series to show your talent, but at the same time we want the guys to learn what it's going to take to do pit stops and strategy in Formula 1. So there's a give and take a little bit on whether or not it's the right thing to do.
It should be okay. The only thing is, how should I say, to not knock any of the mechanics over when you when you stop to make the change.
And Steve Matchett seconds that. Do not knock any of the mechanics over as you're coming in
That's
or out.
Generally considered a good idea.
If you want your car to work for the next race. We'll be back with more from Hungary as we get ready for the second to the last round of the Formula 3000 series for 2003. Welcome back to Speed Channel's coverage of the Formula 3000 race from Hungary. It's the same Hungary as last year, but the track is different. David, why don't you take us around with the track map?
Well, it is quite a bit different. There you see the track, a lot of turns in there. 14 turns in just 2.7 miles, but the big change has taken place at turn 1. Has been changed. It was just a 180-degree turn, rather similar to 14, but they decided to close in the apex, so you had a real positive out-braking possibility going into turn 1. And then as you get round to turn 11, It's changed. 11 used to go straight across to 13, or used to meander across to 13. Now they've made that straight down to 12 with the idea of having another out-braking opportunity into turn 12. I haven't seen much activity there this weekend other than people sliding off the road at 11 yet, but that was what it was for, and of course 13 has tightened up.
And it's a very nice day in Hungary. In fact, it was about 90 degrees during the Formula One qualifying just a short time ago, and probably warmed up a few degrees since then. It's Rafael Jean-Maria sticking in the earplugs, getting ready to go racing. As you can see, we're about 9 minutes away from the start of this.
Hey, what do you say? Huh?
That's because David didn't have earplugs when he was racing.
These pit stops that they're going to have to do now, they're mandatory after. Yeah, well, there's every possibility to turn it into a three-ring circus, of course, in the pit lane. But it should, if the teams are clever enough, and I'm sure those engineers are, to realise the tyre wear situation, we should get away and remove that possibility of the tyres going off towards the end of the race. So they should have more consistent racing. Although Townsend's saying, you know, we might lose a lot of time. The quicker guys are going to lose time by coming in to change tyres. You've got the advantage now, what the Formula One guys have. You should always be out on good rubber if it plays out that way.
And the question,
if it plays out, if being the capital,
yeah,
or the capital Oi.
And well, they have to come in. They have to change 4 tires. That's the rule. They will not be refueling, unlike in Formula One where they do refueling. But the rule is they have to come in after lap 8. If they come in before lap 8 for any problem whatsoever, that does not count as their mandatory pit stop for the race. But they can do the pit stop anytime between lap 8 and the finish of the race.
Yeah, well,
this race, of course, is 35 laps.
Normally, these tyres have started to go off, these Avon control tyres, and everybody's on the same construction and compound. There's no difference between the teams. Start to go off at around lap 20. That's been the traditional way of things. So I would expect these guys to be coming in at about lap 15.
Well, that's pretty much the closest Bernie Ecclestone has been to Formula 3000 in a long time, don't you think?
Well, of course, big changes. You know, there's a lot of other one-make formulas out there. The Nissan formula, based in Spain, is very, very successful and has taken some runners away from Formula 3000, and Bernie wants to try and resuscitate it, and he's going to call it Formula 2 starting next year, I believe.
Well, they definitely need some help. The car count has been dropping. Hard to say whether the quality of the driver is there or not because there are just so few cars. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Speed Channel live coverage of the International Formula 3000 Championship. I'm Rick DeBrule with David Hobbs and Steve Matches. As we wait for the start of today's race, let's take a look back at last year's race. At the start, it was Tomas Engo who led from the pole, and Enrico Teccacello is going to slide his colony into second, and his teammate Giorgio Pantano is going to slot into third. On the run down to the first turn, Antonio Pizzoni is going to hit Rob Nguyen in one of the Astromega cars. Watch this one. He's going to send Nguyen into a spin, but he's going to be able to rejoin the race.
Much like every race at Hungaroring, the top 3 drivers checked out and were unable to pass one another. Jumping forward to lap 24, Pizzoni tries to get under the other Astromega of Mario Haberfeld to take 6th position, but it all goes wrong, and Haberfeld was sent into a barrel roll. And just watch his head as the car noses into the gravel. Boom! Wow!
Man. In fact, now watch Pizzoni, though. He stops, rushes over to check on Haberfeld, but look at this. Haberfeld wants nothing to do with it. Go away, it's all your fault.
Now then, back to the scene of the crash. The field swings around the turn. Everybody ignored the yellow flag. Derek Hill spins and crashes into Pizzoni, a stray vehicle, nearly taking it out 2 marches in the process. Thiago Monteiro hits Rodrigo Sperrifico, spinning him, and the chain reaction ensues.
That was scary. Watch on board from Patrick Friesacher as his car oversteers straight towards the marshals. The incident brought out the safety car with only 4 laps to go.
On the restart, no one could make a pass, and Engo would lead flag to flag with Toccacello second and Pantano third.
At least that's what we thought, because as we know now, this race result was later overturned because Tomas Enga tested positive for marijuana in the post-race drug test, and he was stripped of the win. And Enrico Toccacello walked away with his first F3000 victory. The other beneficiary, of course, Sebastian Bourdais, who managed to get elevated to 3rd place. And as a result, we all know now, he ended up winning the championship. Jaroslav Giannis getting ready to race in today's Hungarian front round of the Formula 3000 Championship. and have his very first pit stop ever. We're going to take a brief break. Thumbs up for the pit stop is what Yaroslav says. We'll be right back in 1 moment. Welcome back to Speed Channel's live coverage of the Formula 3000 Championship. Cars just moments away from driving off, and there's the man who is starting on the pole today, Tonio Liuzzi. The first time in his career.
Liuzzi having been involved in that horrendous crash going up the hill at Monte Carlo in the race with Toccacello back at the beginning of the year. All seems like a long time ago now.
All forgotten, all forgiven? Well, all forgotten at least for the time being.
Pantano laying some rubber down in his slot on the grid.
Yeah, it appears everybody's going to get away safely, and as a result of that, we're going to show you how the cars are going to line up for the start of today's race. On the front row, as I just mentioned, for the very first time in his career, Vincentonio Liuzzi. Tonio to all his friends, getting his first pole. Beside him, Giorgio Pantano. He cannot win the championship, but he can get second, and more importantly, he simply wants another victory.
Starting third, his best grid position here also for Patrick Friesacker in the second Red Bull car, and alongside him, Town Bell. Not his best time of the year, but out-qualifying his teammate, Bjorn Wirdheim, for the first time of the year.
Row number 3, it is indeed Bjorn Wirdheim, the new champ who celebrates with his worst qualifying position of the year, and the winner of last race in Hockenheim, Ricardo Sperafico beside him.
On row 4, now the second youngest driver in the field is Yaroslav Yanis in the only ISR Chiru car, his teammate having been knocked off his bicycle and injured in practicing. And next to him is Enrico Toccacello, who qualified second here last year, but has faded badly this year after a win at the Nürburgring in the European round.
Row number 5 was supposed to be Zolt Baumgartner and Tony Schmidt, but Zolt Baumgartner, as a result of getting the opportunity to replace Ralph Furman in the Formula 1 race in the Jordan, will not be racing in this race. So he is off the grid, and that helps out Tony because Tony's just going to move over to the clean line.
Row 6 is all Italian, Rafael Giammaria in the second Durango car, and next to him is Giovanni Berton, a newcomer who's replacing the American Will Langhorne in the VCN team.
And the last two qualifiers for this race, Sam Hancock, who is in only his second race, and yet another newcomer, Fernando Monfardini, who is going to be starting dead last.
And he is only 19 years old, displacing Yaroslav Yanis as the youngest driver in the field.
Now, you might have seen him earlier on. He is a driver for Durango and Formula Renault, so he's got an outfit similar to Giorgio Pantano's, but he is filling in this weekend with another team at the back of the grid. Just happy to be there. The dominoes fall, things change. It's been a very tumultuous year in Formula 3000. Car count's been slowly dipping as a result of all the problems, trying to get the funding to get people here. And
a very good point has been made, of course, that these guys are starting dead last in here, but they're almost in the points with only 13 cars running today, so they don't have to do much, and they're going to get some points.
Well, let's talk about what a nice day it is here in Hungary. 91 degrees, track temperature of 112, humidity is 46. The winds have actually calmed down just a bit. At one point, they were gusting to around 20 miles an hour. And the forecast, sunshine all the way.
Yeah, and of course, low sunshine coming late in the afternoon here in Hungary. So these guys are going to have a bit of a problem with the sunshine.
All right, now what I really want to watch is Townsend Bell and Bjorn Wirdheim in the two Arden cars. We're checking things out. Looks like they all lined up good. We're going to listen as they start the Formula 3000 race from the Hungaroring. Here we go.
Good start by Liuzzi and his teammate Friesacker, both on the clean side of the track. And look at those guys on the dirty side, really languishing badly.
And a lot of dust being thrown up from the dirty side of the track already.
Townsend Bell right in the middle of that sandwich. Wirdheim goes around the outside and makes a great move.
Wirdheim. No, that wasn't Wirdheim, sorry. Getting really sideways there.
Now Wirdheim going wheel to wheel with Pantano right there. Wirdheim on the inside.
No grip.
Oh.
And Townsend Bell takes advantage. Look at that. Townsend Bell slots into third.
Pushes Pantano wide there.
Meanwhile, the two Red Bull cars are checking out. Wirdheim had a great start. I thought that at one point I thought that Townsend Bell really had the move going in the first turn, but he got kind of slammed in. There was too much traffic, and Wirdheim was able to go by on the outside, but he cooked it too much going through the next turn.
Well, of course, he was on the dirty. Then he went from the clean side to the dirty side of the track, going around the outside of turn 1, and Townsend went from the dirty side in the starting position to the clean side, so picked up a spot.
Townsend was saying, whoa, Townsend, hang on, buddy.
All going wide.
Oh, Townsend Bell really looked a bit hair-raising there. Giorgio Pantano.
Townsend was saying, oh, the other guy going wide in the back. Townsend was saying this is one track that he has not had a chance to do any testing on. He's been trying to, before every race, at least drive something on the track, whether it's some lower formula, at the very least a street car. Nope. Is that Toccacello making a move? Giorgio Pantano was the big loser. He started on the front row, and he is now
shuffled right back to what, 5th or 6th?
Yeah, he's now in 5th.
Not a good day for Giorgio. But as I said, he is the king of overtakers in the Formula 3000 field at the moment. Whoa, locking up there, though. He comes down into turn 1 for the first time. Gianmaria making the move there. On Toccacello for P9.
And we haven't mentioned Riccardo Sperafico. Sperafico, who started 6th, has moved up to 4th.
It may be a small field, but there's certainly a lot of action going on out there.
Yeah, there is.
And remember, these guys are already thinking about what are they going to do for their pit stop. There was one theory that said make your pit stop early on. If the earliest you can do it is lap 8, make it lap 8. But Townsend was saying, you know, they were going to wait to see how it plays out because a lot depends upon where you're at. You want to make your pit stop and then come out behind a lot of the slower cars that are behind you.
Yeah, I don't think you can just assume you should come in on lap 8 to get it out of the way. You've really got to look at the way the tyres are working and use it to your advantage. You have to use every rule in motorsport to your advantage. Exploit it to the nth degree. If you've got a pit, make best use of it. Now, these Avon control tyres are normally a very hard compound for durability. I don't think the compound would have changed in time for the rule changes introduced. Let's have another look at the start. Try and lay that rubber down to get.
Because these guys don't have traction control or launch control. It's all done by the drivers.
Liuzzi was up front. Friesacker just blows by Pantano, and there you see Townsend Bell starting to blow by as well. He gets in front of Wirdheim, and at this point I thought he had Wirdheim, but Wirdheim was able to take him on the outside.
This is the shot.
Well, he got just balked a little bit by Pantano there. Very close. Boy, if those guys didn't touch wheels, it'd be a miracle. Goes down into turn 1. Pantano and Wirdheim both outbrake Townsend Bell big time. Then on the way out of the corner, Wirdheim got a big cross-up going. Boy, Townsend Bell very cautious on the brakes for that turn 1. Both those guys going by one on each side.
I think Pantano got caught out by just having so much dust on the tyres going down to that first corner. As soon as he tried to put the brake on and get the thing to work around that first corner, just slipped away from him. Yeah, I don't believe the compound and construction of these control tyres has changed from last race to this, so there will still be a hard compound, and we saw that on that opening lap right there where the cars were just understeering off the track right to the edge of the tarmac.
But we have seen these tires fall off in the second half of the race.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they can do a pit stop, that's the one advantage they're going to have now.
Yeah.
Mind, they did change that construction of the rear tyres a couple of races back, which certainly helped that longevity situation. Look at Townsend Bell in 3rd, Sperafico right behind him, winner of the last race, and Pantano right behind Sperafico.
What we should see now, though, because they can use that pit stop, must use that pit stop, you probably see the drivers now, they don't need to be so cautious of looking after the tyres to get them to last the race distance. They should be able to push harder if they can get the tyres to work. Really what they want is a softer compound than what they've got now, then they could really push on them.
Giorgio Pantano in the blue car, moving up on Riccardo Sperafico. You saw him look to the inside just a little bit, already trying to make his presence known.
Well, as I say, Giorgio Pantano certainly proved himself last year to be an ace at overtaking. Oh, big lock up there. That's Tony Schmidt going very... That is definitely wide there.
That's certainly using the tyres.
There's Gianmaria going through.
Tony Schmidt had a great start because he was back officially in 10th, although he'd started 9th because Zolt had dropped out, but he moved up to 7th. And then there he just lost a place.
So these two Red Bull Junior cars are just off.
They are off. They look good. They're pulling away from Townsend Bell, who's not being harassed, so he's got the track clear to himself. Then he needs to be making ground on these guys and trying to catch him up.
But the great wild card has been introduced today, pit stops. A mandatory pit stop that these guys are going to have to make.
Boy, it is going to be a very tense and nervous situation the first time these cars come into the pits with these mechanics who have probably never done a hot pit stop before. And nervous, get the gun to work the right way. If you've got it set to tighten or undo, check it again, check it a third time.
Yeah, and they only get 6 guys over the wall. It's not an unlimited number, so each guy's got to do extra work, and they've got to do it right. We'll be back in just a moment from Hungary.
Speed Channel's coverage of Formula 3000 is brought to you by Porsche for the pure sport of driving.
Back in Hungary for the Formula 3000 race. It is the Red Bull cars up front. This guy, Tony Liuzzi, just a moment ago, set the fastest lap of the race. His teammate, Patrick Friesacher, right behind. Townsend Bell right there. Ricardo Sperafico, Giorgio Pantano, Bjorn Wirdheim. And Wirdheim, just a moment ago, was starting to close up on Pantano.
Yeah, Sperafico going wide there. Wirdheim hanging right in there. Very evenly matched, of course. These cars are evenly matched. I mean, everything's controlled, the tyres, the engines, the chassis. You can only do a few adjustments to the chassis, nothing much. So this is really even Stevens racing. The driver comes out on top. And sometimes when you think it's going to lead to really, really close racing, it doesn't always work that way.
No.
It's just hard. It's hard to make any ground on anybody. You know, where do you make it up?
Well, as you've seen before, what you can do,
boy, Sperafico came very close to he lost it almost to the edge of the track there.
It's really how much downforce dare you take off the car. You can adjust the wings, crank downforce on and off. But it's the age-old story. You take it off to maximize your straight line speed down the straight. The rest of the track, sections 2 and 3, right round to 11, 12, 14, and back onto the main straight, you're going to struggle for grip.
Second, third, fourth, and fifth in this championship are only covered by 10 points. Liuzzi is lying 4th at the moment. If he was to finish in the lead now, he would jump into a solid second spot. Sperafico is too far behind. He'd lose points big time. Pantano would lose points. Enrico Toccacello is also not looking too good in this race. His points chase gone. He's in 5th in the points. And Townsend Bell is 11th. But if he was to finish where he would, that would jump him about 4 places too. So a pretty crucial race this, and with just one more to run after this in Monza in 3 weeks' time.
But as Ricardo Sperafico and Giorgio Pantano were basically saying, I mean, their Formula 3000 career is pretty much coming to an end. At this point, second place in the championship doesn't even mean much to them. They need to win races because that's the only thing that they can put on a plate and show to a team owner in another series to say, hey, look, this is a reason you ought to hire me. I know how to win.
They need to win races, or they need to do very, very well, pass a lot of people and look good, and if something goes wrong, so be it. But they really need to be doing, you need to show people something. The Red Bull cars show me that they're very well set up. They seem to be going through, they look extremely smooth.
Well, there's a slow-mo for you, David.
Yeah, that super slow-mo that the European sports world is so fond of, and it certainly does do the job. Sperafico is definitely moving up on Townsend Bell.
Now, we haven't seen any shots in the pit lane yet of the mechanics setting up and what equipment they're likely to have. Remember, the Formula 1 teams and all big motor racing teams will have gantries put over the top of their pit box so that the car will just drive into that pit slot without the risk of having to run over any of the cables and pneumatic hoses and the guns. It's the younger teams, the junior teams, won't have the money to produce that sort of stuff, so we could well see a lot of different approaches of how the teams are going to adapt to this mandatory pit stop situation. Who's got the money to spend to make the equipment? And it could make a big difference. But thinking about what the drivers need to do to impress Formula 1 teams, this is going to show up right now in the pit stop situation. How controlled and calm are the drivers when they come in? Can they hit that mark without running the front jack guy over? Well, there's no pressure there in the pit lane, is there?
Well, obviously a tremendous amount of action going on in both these pits here. This is the Arden International team.
Yeah.
Lap 8 now, the window's open. These two guys, the Red Bull cars, are really humming along. They're looking extremely good. Maybe they have a plan, but I can't believe that none of these guys, I can't believe that anybody is not pushing just as hard as they possibly can.
No, and I think, again, David, that must play into this pit stop window that's opened up now. You don't have to, as before, the racecraft isn't as important. You don't need to nurse those tyres to make sure they'll last the 30-odd laps of the race. Once you start to chew them up and break them up until they really start to degrade, that's the window to come in.
Now they're still talking about the strategy. Remember, I told you, tighten the wheel, tighten the nut. Don't forget, turn right, turn left. Every last-minute instruction.
Don't forget to get the air gun with the right motion on it. Don't tighten the wheel up when he comes up.
There's Townsend Bell under pressure from Ricardo Sperafico. He's starting to catch up. We mentioned, David, just a moment ago, you said it, that Ricardo was closing in, and now he's definitely got Townsend in his sights.
Ricardo Sperafico, a winner just 2 races ago.
But as we've talked about in this series, it's easy to catch up. It's hard to go by. And this track has been especially difficult, although
and that's
with the
Sperafico
reconfigured
said right
turn.
at the beginning there, he needs to, he's one of those guys that's been in the series, what, 2 years, 3 years? I mean, he really needs to show something. And obviously, it's vital that he get by Townsend Bell.
You saw Giorgio Pentano, who was also doing a little pressuring of his own.
Nice little piece of artwork right there.
Look like U-boats coming up out of the water, don't they?
Townsend coming up over the hill.
They certainly do, David Hobbs.
Pantano right behind Sperafico now, too. So it looks as if Townsend Bell is actually holding this little group up just a tad. Oh, there's somebody making their pit stop.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is someone dived in.
I think it was Jaroslav Yanis.
No, it was Bjorn Wirdheim. Bjorn Wirdheim, who was behind Pantano, has decided to come in. Now,
there he is.
Now remember, he does not have a pit lane speed limit.
I don't think anybody's told the Hungarian cameraman. Oh, here they go.
Now, nice and calm, nice and controlled.
This is where you lock up, slide into the toolbox.
Here's the first mandatory pit stop of Formula 3000. Now, the Arden team has been practicing this for the last couple of weeks. The best they've been able to do is about 12 seconds. Although they say they've been averaging in the 14 to 15 second range.
Well, they have to put those locking pins in there. You saw the mechanic on the left rear. Very nice stop.
14 seconds.
That's very good for these guys. Once again, the fastest they've ever done it is 12 seconds, and to do it in 14 is very respectable. Now, cold tires.
Cold tires, exactly.
God, look at that.
You guys are talking about that, yeah. How are the guys going to react to these cold tires when they come off those hot racing tires? No tire warmers, of course, in F3000.
And, of course, they come out on that pit lane, which is right on the dirty line. I mean, boy, I thought poor old Wirdheim was going to disappear into the gravel.
But that's actually kind of good, because what's going to happen, other teams will have seen that, and they're going to remind their drivers on the way back out. Do not forget, you have cold tires.
What do you say? I can't hear the engine noise. What do you say? What tires? Okay.
All right, the very first pit stop of Formula 3000. Here it is for the trivia books. Bjorn Wirdheim is the guy who did it. The champion of 2003 was the very first man ever to make a pit stop in Formula 3000, a mandatory pit stop. Now it looks like one of the Durango cars. Will it be Jean Maria or will it be Pantano? It's Pantano.
Pantano in. Hit
Pantano
your marks,
was in
hit
fifth.
your marks.
See, the one thing these guys have got, the Formula 1 blokes don't have, they have those safety pins that hold the wheel nut on.
Yeah. See, these chassis, the Lola B250 chassis was never built with the intention of doing mandatory pit stops. So you have this very slow, like a oversized hair grip pin, which you have to... Whoa, man.
Jeepers, a finger loser there.
I'm not even sure they got the pin in.
No, and if they haven't got the pin in, there should be an FIA official there making sure that the pins are in. Those pins are put into the axle, the stub axles, to make sure that the nut cannot back off if it hasn't been up tight. Now, I'm not entirely sure that pin did go in. No, and he's got another pin in his hand right now.
Yeah, they're going to have to bring him back in, I bet.
Now, where is the lollipop guy? There is it. Look, first gear. But
Oh! Yeah, see, he lifted it and then he set it back down.
you can't do that. Well, everybody's learning in the F3000 pit lane right now.
Oh my gosh. This guy with his hand right there.
Oh, that's going to cost Giorgio Pantano big time. Came in, made the pit stop, needed to get out quickly, but unfortunately you rush it that last little bit, and that's what happens. We're going to take a brief break. We'll be back in a moment. Back here in Hungary, and bad news for Sperafico fans. We didn't see what happened, but apparently he's hit something. Check out that left rear wheel. Ew.
Yeah, suspension
He's
damage.
hit something. Certainly the suspension's broken, but we don't see what caused it. But it's certainly, you look at when you see the side of the car, you can see how deranged his left rear wheel is.
It's difficult to say what's caused that. They've got steel suspension on these cars. They're not carbon like the big brothers in the F1 paddock, but could be just a bolt come out of the camber plate, something to that effect, but a little bit of unintentional four-wheel steering will not help that car at all.
If there's a bolt come out, of course, we know who to blame for that, don't we?
And I have a very good feeling a mechanic may determine the winner of this race when you look at how close these two guys are
I hope
together.
that mechanic's fingers are all right. He had his hand right in the middle of that wheel when he let the clutch out.
It was on Giorgio Pantano's stop just a moment ago.
They call him corkscrew arm down at the pub now.
So there's Pantano, look, clean tyres, new tyres on a clean track, and already setting a good time.
What we don't know is whether he's got that locking pin.
There's Riccardo Sperafico. So that's going to dash his hopes pretty badly in the championship. He was lying third.
You see,
second in the championship with 37 points.
Guys working away on the back of that car. It looks to me probably like a bolt has come out the rear camber plate. That's the part that attaches the axle to the top wishbone at the rear.
Well, remember, when there's only 13 cars, as Enrico Toccacello coming in to the pits, he was running in 6th. He'll be the third driver to make a stop.
Those holes you see there will line up on bullet studs on the stub axle to locate it, so they'll slam the wheel on.
This Supernova Racing is the most experienced team in Formula 3000, run by David Sears. They really should be doing better than they're doing this year. Derek Hill drove for them, had a lackluster season, but the whole team's having a bit of a lackluster season. Toccacello,
17 seconds, but nice work by the left-hand gunman there. He just took the extra time. Now this is a replay of Pantano as he was trying to get the clip in.
Yeah.
There's your old
right in there.
Corkscrew arm, David.
Absolutely. Well,
now look to the right of his hand. There's the clip, I believe, on the tarmac there. Little red. It's like an oversized hair grip, basically. Two little prongs that spring out in the stub axle just enough to stop the nut winding itself off.
Look at that. Toccacello has come out in front of Bjorn Wirdheim.
Well, that's good for Toccacello. He needs the points, but he had a great start to the season. Got 4 points in San Marino, 6 in Spain, 4 in Austria, none in, and then 1 in Europe.
Now remember, Toccacello is on colder tires. Bjorn Wirdheim has already been up to speed for several laps. This is a chance. If he's going to make a move, he needs to do it right now this lap.
Yeah, Toccacello desperately trying to get heat. Oh, here goes down. Oh. Definitely had to go down the inside there. This battle now is for 7th. Toccacello's lying 7th. Wirdheim 6th. After they both stopped, because most of the people in front of them have yet to stop.
There goes Wirdheim, goes to the inside. You saw the dust and stuff he was kicking up.
You're right, Rick. As soon as you pull off line here, it's just awful.
Tries to get back on line for braking into turn 1.
But what's his tyres like after that?
Well, you see him lock up very slightly, but he manages to hold on.
And that's Pantano right behind them.
Well, at least we know that new turn 1 does allow some passing.
Yeah.
Let's take another look at that.
This is that last turn, turn 14. It's such a crucial corner here. to get right, and which Wirdheim does. Look, he's right under the wing of the Supernova cars. They pull out onto the straight, pulls out and drafts by because he hit the straight with more speed on board. These cars have very even... Whoa! Pantano squeaked by.
And Toccacello got very squirrely.
Toccacello that lost all his momentum, and now Berton's having a go at him.
A red car is the one belonging to Giovanni Berton.
And he got him too.
And that red car that's behind Toccacello is Fernando Manfredini. Here's, take a look at it again.
Oh, Pantano squeaking down the inside there, brakes all locked up, lost a bit of momentum, but luckily going in there, he squeezed by Toccacello, who had to lift right off, which let the car of Berton through.
Very reminiscent of the chicane at Suzuka.
Yeah, it is a bit, isn't it?
Yeah. The old Casio triangle there.
But that's what Pantano was so good at last year.
Yeah, and he proved it again today. Now that drops Toccacello back to 9th position.
9th position, although we've only had 3 pit stops so far from 3 cars.
Liuzzi has got to stop, Friesack has got to stop, and of course Townsend Bell's got to stop. Well, the last couple of Formula 3000 races at Germany and Silverstone were not exactly the sort of races where you have to hold your breath for the entire 35 laps.
Here we go.
Now this is Manfredini, a rookie in this race, not only running his first Formula 3000 race, but no doubt doing his very first pit stop as well.
Now,
there's turning into a long one.
Yeah, there's a problem at the front.
Uh-oh.
Well, he's still got his hand up. Where's the problem now?
Townsend Bell was saying he was watching some of the teams doing their pit stop
there's a
practice
problem.
this
Left
week.
front, David, you're right. Well spotted.
And he said some of the teams just looked like they were running pit stops for the very first time on Thursday. Well, his team has been
Well, it's not something you sort of getting ready for, was it, as the season started?
No.
Look at that gap.
Oh, but
From Liuzzi back to 3 seconds. Here's Townsend Bell, nearly 8 seconds behind. And Yaroslav Yanis, another 5 seconds back.
And then 5th place belongs to Jean-Maria Raphael. He's in the pits right there. Welcome back to round 9 of the Formula 3000 Championship, and there you see the signs going out for the drivers. Patrick Friesacker getting the sign that it's time for him to come in and make his first pit stop. Now don't forget to tune in to Speed Channel tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern Time for live coverage of the American Le Mans Series from Road America. You don't want to miss these amazing prototypes on America's premier road racing circuit. Again, that's tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Time, only here on Speed.
Just down the road from my house, and I won't be there because I'll be at Hungary.
Sam Hancock in the pits having his change. Now, if I was organising these pit stops, I'd leave the car on the rear jack until everybody's happy that the work's been completed, and then let the car down. Because if the car's on the rear jack and the rear wheels are in the air, it ain't going anywhere. The driver can't drive off. Friesacker from P2, Red Bull Junior. Now let's see how these guys approach the pit stop situation.
Well, certainly they're having a fantastic run so far. Do these guys have a speed limit in the pit lane?
Yeah, they do have a speed limit, but they don't have a
speed limit. They don't know what it is.
On their, well,
that's good.
They can't. They have to do it manually. They have to simply watch their rev limit and watch their dash, their instrumentation.
Steel discs on these cars. You're not allowed to use carbon brakes. That's, oh, he's got the nut cross. Careful, lad. Oh, it's exactly what you should do, is start it by hand. Only when the thread is engaged by hand, activate the air gun to do it up.
There speaks
about
the voice
20
of experience.
seconds. Yeah. See, unlike a Formula 1 car where these guys work to get the pit stops working so that everything's designed, the nut and the axle threads are designed in such a way that you can't cross-thread them, these cars have never been designed for that. So if you use an air gun, or there's in those cold tires, if you use an air gun before you've got the thread engaged onto the axle, you will strip the nut or jam it solid.
He's come out behind Giorgio Pantano.
He has. Was that a long stop?
It's the first rule of engineering. Never use a tool on a thread until you've started it with your fingers, whether it be a nut, a screw, or an axle nut.
Wow, and Liuzzi has to hope that the mistakes that they just made on Friesacker's car will be enough to make him, think a little bit before he comes in. Liuzzi did not come in, although the way these pit stops are being run, it's almost better not to do them one lap after another. These guys haven't done them before.
Got to recover.
They need to take a minute to regroup.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Because that stop of Friesacker puts him behind Pantano and Wirdheim.
But he's still ahead of Townsend Bell.
It's much better just to take an extra couple of seconds just to calm yourself down and make sure everything's working right, because you get it wrong in the pit stop and you can lose 15, 20, 30 seconds trying to correct the fault. Best to lose 5 seconds and make sure the car goes out right.
Now, we have not seen the pictures of it, but we're going to assume that Townsend Bell is pitted, and that's why he is in the position he's in on track.
And he came out behind his teammate, Wirdheim, who he was well in front of, and Giorgio Pantano, who he was well in front of. So his pit stop cannot have gone that smoothly. He is now right behind Patrick Friesacker. You remember his pal from the European Grand Prix.
Yeah, Wirdheim had a great pit stop. That was the first one we saw, and it was an excellent pit stop. And really, his was the best one we've seen so far, I think.
There's Jaroslav Janis from Yugoslavia, who is yet to pit, being hounded by Bjorn Wirdheim, who has already pitted.
Well, the one thing that we really hadn't seen from Wirdheim this year was passing people. One thing to be able to say you're a champion, but you know, he hasn't had a lot to show in terms of what he could do on track.
Giovanni Bertone from Italy. I get in my Central European states mixed up. Jaroslav Janis is from the Czech Republic, not Yugoslavia. Big difference. Here's our race leader.
Oh, look at him working hard to get down to the proper pit speed. This is Tony Liuzzi. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out on the track after making this pit stop. The guy he really has to work to be in front of is Bjorn Wirdheim.
Well, these guys have done it once, so they know what it's like now in the heat of battle. That's it, calm down. You see the guy in the front just saying, calm down to the driver. Stop there, don't move. Don't do anything until I lift that brakes on board. Wirdheim stop was 14 seconds. Oh, they got a problem with the gun.
He did it. He did what you said don't do. He put it on with the gun.
No, he's got a gun actual problem. Now he's back on, but a very long stop.
I think the Noah's on it. For some reason, the air gun didn't operate. I wouldn't be surprised, you know, in the heat of battle, they've got a flick switch left and right that you operate with your thumb. If you don't push it all the way through, it will drop into a neutral position. That's exactly what that gun sounded like to me. I don't think the guy had it right over in the do-up position. I think he just hit the neutral spot.
Well, I think that's dropped Liuzzi to third.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Saw the Durango car coming up over the hill. I'm curious whether that was It looked like Jean-Marie and not Pantano.
Yeah, you can't. If you're going to signal to the brakes on guy, signal. Don't give all this sort of Nancy half wave of your hand. We're not quite sure what's going on. Put your hand up, shout, do whatever. Make clear signals. None of that. I don't want to see that, boy. If you're going to do something in any form of racing, do it, but do it bold. Be it right or wrong, but don't mess around halfway in the middle, not sure what you're doing.
Well, guess who has assumed the lead of the race? Bjorn Wirdheim qualified on the third row, and this year we thought that was a kiss of death, especially at this track. Whoever would have thought the guy who qualified fifth could take the lead, but he had the best pit stop of the day. And that's where you see Patrick Friesacker behind
Giorgio Pantano. Now Patrick Friesacker looks in a pretty overtaking mode here. They come down to turn one.
Giorgio Pantano is not going to take this easily.
Yep, going to have to. Now his only hope is that Friesacker runs wide, which he did not. Yep. Late braking there by Friesacker on the dirty side of the track, and still managed to hold him off.
Friesacker's got those fresh tyres on, right?
Giorgio does not give up easily.
Oh.
Slide to the inside each way. Doesn't make it work, though. Gotta say, Giorgio's an exciting driver to watch.
Yeah, these guys got to be. Whoa!
Big
locks up there, and of course they got to make sure they stay on line because there's an awful lot of rolled up rubber and dust offline here, which makes overtaking difficult, which makes that pass of Friesacker there really good. Actually, lends a lot of hope for tomorrow afternoon that maybe there will be some overtaking to turn 1.
Yeah, but can he catch up to him now? You remember the reason that whole thing happened is because Friesacher was faster and was able to catch up and get past. Raphael's got to get a little...
Friesacher's pulling away just a little bit from Pantano. The thing is, can he pull up and here we see it again, down to turn 1, locks up the inside, transfers the weight, locks up the inside wheel. That is a great pass by Friesacher for second spot. Also, Pantano kept his head there and did not make the age-old mistake of shutting the door when the horse was already in it, which is what they call a wheel-removing incident. So a good pass there, and Pantano kept his head and his wheels.
And Patrick Friesacher slowly but surely now beginning to edge out away from Giorgio Pantano.
And I think he's catching up a little bit on Wirdheim.
Well, we may have ourselves a race on our hands, gentlemen. Wirdheim in the lead, Friesacher, that call right there. And Townsend Bell, based on Liuzzi's horrible pit stop, has managed to regain 4th spot. And we can only assume, we didn't see Townsend Bell stop, but we can only assume it was not a good one.
It can't have been certainly as good as his teammate, Bjorn Wirdheim's.
We're going to take a quick break and come back with more from the Hungaroring as the Formula 3000 race with the first time ever having pit stops, and it's definitely made it a battle. Back in Hungary, Bjorn Wirdheim is in the lead. He is the series champion, but that Red Bull car right behind him is Patrick Friesacher, who's slowly but surely reeling him in. Remember, as a result of the pit stops, Friesacher moved back, and Wirdheim was able to take the lead. Wirdheim had the best pit stop of the day. Looks like it'll take a few more laps for that Red Bull car to do the job, so we're going to take a brief break and come back with more. Don't go away. Formula 3000 on Speed Channel will return right after this. All right, back in Hungary, the Formula 3000 race, and we have got a battle on our hands for the lead. Bjorn Wirdheim in the red and white car, being followed by Patrick Friesacher. Friesacher slowly but surely had reeled him in. Now he's trying to figure out where to make a move, and there's really only one place to do it. That's at the end of the front straightaway, and just a moment ago we saw Bjorn Wirdheim almost blocking, going very wide. Don't forget to tune in to Speed later today for even more open-wheeled excitement. We'll bring you live coverage of the Champ Car World Series. The Kart Boys are at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the final round of qualifying. Live coverage starts at 1:30 in the afternoon Eastern Time, and you will not want to miss it.
Well, 10 laps to go, and Bjorn Wirdheim, even though he's leading the race, is being hounded strongly by Patrick Friesacher. And I think Wirdheim must be going a little bit on the slow side because Giorgio Pantano, just seeing the picture there, is coming up right. He's catching up these guys pretty well, and Townsend Bell is just behind him. So this could turn into quite a punch-up with just 10 laps left.
Well, he's close here.
Patrick Friesacher making another go here.
Now Wirdheim goes way off on line. You see how dirty it is over there. He's at the inside line. Hold on.
Boy, oh boy, I tell you what, we've seen Patrick Friesacher pull off a couple of really great passes. He was you could see the dust coming off like a rooster tail there off the dirt, but he hung right in there. Bjorn Wirdheim now locking up big time, and right behind Wirdheim is Pantano.
Yeah, Wirdheim, the lap before that had made a very wide move and had gone further over.
Dust in the dirt there.
That time
cleans up a bit as they come down there where the pit exit is.
That time Wirdheim didn't go as far over, and it cost him.
Well, that's the sort of thing, of course, that the Formula 1 managers are going to be watching, how Wirdheim, the new champion, handles it all, and being dusted here by
we do mean
Friesacher,
dusted.
and we do mean dusted. And right behind him now is Giorgio Pantano.
Yeah, because so far all Wirdheim's really been able to prove is that he can qualify well and stay up front. The Red Bull team going, yeah, you can do it. Come on, Patrick. They're happy about it right now. Patrick Friesacher has assumed the lead. We'll be back. Back in Hungary for the very first time, these guys have had to do pit stops, and it has changed the course of this race. There you see Townsend Bell. Behind him, Tony
who was leading so comfortably. His pit stop was rather messed up, and so put him right back now in 5th spot behind Townsend Bell.
Pit stops have changed the face of this race. They'd never done pit stops in this series before. In the last 3 weeks, they decided to do it. Start off just as a gentleman's agreement between the teams. And in fact, when they first decided they were going to do this, they didn't have a penalty associated with it because it wasn't an FIA rule. Now they've decided that the penalty is if you were to miss your pit stop, you'd be penalized 2 minutes. Although in this case, it appears that everybody has done it.
Rafael Gianmaria has had a good run, qualified in 11th, now up to 6th. Jaroslav Yanis, on the other hand, qualified 7th and is running 7th.
Well, I have to say, I was a little unsure about the pit stop situation, whether or not it would improve the racing, but I think it has. We've had an exciting race because of the introduction of those pit stops.
It's definitely changed the face of what's going on today. That's Patrick Friesacher right there in the Red Bull car. He gained the lead after passing Bjorn Wirdheim right there in the red and white car. There see Giorgio Pantano in the light blue car passing, I think it's that Sam Hancock, a back marker, and then Townsend Bell trying to go by as well. And then Antonio Liuzzi is right behind Townsend Bell.
5 o'clock in the afternoon now. Light sun, very strong sun all day, hot day. But at this point, coming around this long curve, the sun right in your eyes. You're going uphill, you're facing right into the sun. Very difficult.
And as you come down the main straightaway there, David, you can see that the shadows from the grandstands over on the right-hand side of the screen fall right over the tarmac. It's like driving through the trees at Hockenheim, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and you get that strobe effect because it's a ripply roof. It's not made of wriggly tin, but it is a ripply roof. Friesacher and Liuzzi, when they were leading early on, they were really making the rest of the field look desperate. And Friesacher, having got around Bjorn Wirdheim, has pulled out another huge lead. I mean, those Red Bull cars must be working really, really well.
That makes you wonder what kind of season that Friesacher would have had if he hadn't
broken his
arm and missed those races.
Yeah, I mean, all these cars are identical. As we said before, what you can do, other than the setup, it's just the preparation work. How much money has the team got to throw at it? Can they change the bearings? Can they change the bolts?
Well, Arden Motorsports have certainly been the class of field all year with Bjorn's car and have showed excellent car preparation, and their cars obviously set up very well. But boy, the Red Bull cars today on this twisty track, it's a real handling track, this, have obviously made the most of setup, going extremely well. Look at the lead he's got. He only passed him about 3 laps ago.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, Steve, early on, these guys don't have to worry about saving their tires this race.
No. And if this is going to continue, which I'm sure it will be for next year, the pit stop situation, what we need now is Avon to react to this and produce tires
a little bit softer
that are going to go off, that will be unable to finish a race distance, and therefore we can get the cars to push even more.
That's just everybody going around a back marker. It's Pantano, Bell, and Liuzzi just swinging around safely.
Of course, I suppose from the team's perspective, you know, you start doing that, introduce tires that are going to go off after 10 laps but are a lot softer, all of a sudden the expense goes up, and then you need double the amount of tires that you started off with, and well, before you know it, you're back to Formula 1.
Yeah, I think that's a poor idea, Steve, to have softer tires. Just have the pit stop, that'll do. And the cold tires, that adds a bit of excitement
and
too.
You always run that risk of having a team that, you know, somehow gets a little better funded than the other guys, who can have a little better pit equipment, and suddenly the ante gets moved up again, and it just adds to the cost of the series. That's the one thing they've got to be very careful of, because this series is already considered too expensive in Europe.
And there's too many one-make formulas too in Europe, and with the Formula Renault, Formula Nissan, both of which are pretty strong. And of course, our Kimi Raikkonen in the McLaren came straight out of Formula Renault, impressed the heck out of some people who saw him race there, popped him in a Formula 1 car, and hey presto, gets points in his very first race for Sauber.
There is talk that Renault will actually become the engine supplier for this series, in the next couple of years and potentially eliminate.
Liuzzi trying to go around Townsend Bell through that turn 14. He got him. Townsend Bell goes wide. Oh.
Hang on, buddy.
Townsend, don't do that.
So Townsend Bell gets taken by Liuzzi. Now he's dropped back, but he's still in 5th. We're going to take a brief break. We'll come back with more in a moment. Back in Hungary, this is what happened just a moment ago. Liuzzi trying to go by Pantano. Watch this.
Goes wide, spins through 360, collects himself together, sticks it in gear, but Townsend Bell retakes that position, but only just from Liuzzi, whose tyres now will be covered in clag. So that's going to take him a few corners to get rid of that.
Nice recovery, though.
Meanwhile, Joe Pantano is trying to figure out how to catch up with Bjorn Wirdheim, and Liuzzi is trying to catch back up to Townsend Bell.
With only just over 2 laps left, 2 and a bit laps left. This is coming down to turn 11. Whoa, Liuzzi going wide again there. Townsend Bell got that lap car for him. Bertani wants to get Ryan before they get to turn 12. Whoa, Bertani's not looking in the mirror. Yes, he is. No, he isn't. Gia Maria. Rafael Gia Maria.
Oh, Bertone almost went into Gia Maria. He did. He hit him and he went off. Gian Maria just spun.
Oh, and his high side. No, he isn't.
No, he's going.
More dust on the track. Excellent.
Well, I have to say, this has been the most interesting race of the year. Actually,
oh my
since
God,
that first
after
one.
Germany and Britain. Look at this lot. Wirdheim, Pantano, Bell and Liuzzi. Pantano locks up. Both front wheels locked up big time, but he didn't lose much time.
Man, Bjorn Wirdheim is at the front, then Pantano, then Bell, then Liuzzi. Liuzzi, who had that spectacular spin just a moment ago, is all over the back of Bell.
This is a vital battle because this is the battle for second spot. Wirdheim lying second. That's second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Second, third, fourth, and fifth there. Sorry, sixth is a lap car. Whoa, Wirdheim. Yeah, this is where Liuzzi got it on that fast left-hander. The fastest corner here when the old Liuzzi had that big spin. Zipped through 360 and only just got passed by Townsend Bell, who's now desperate to pass again.
Free Sockers is gone up front.
Pantano blocking Townsend Bell now. Townsend Bell on a huge mission.
Remember, we've had so many Americans this year who are here, but Townsend Bell's the only one still here. Derek Hill was racing. He's gone. Phil Giebler, Will Langhorne. Townsend Bell's the only one left. And he's trying to figure out, how can I make a move on Pantano without hurting my position?
It's all very well to try and get around Pantano, but he's really got to keep an eye on the mirror, because if he makes a desperate attempt and fails to get around Pantano, Liuzzi will get him again. Look at Liuzzi right behind him as they go into turn 14.
Friesacker starting his final lap. He's got no trouble at all, but look at this.
Oh, he tried to go on the inside of Townsend Bell going through turn 14. Oh, my gosh.
But he hurt himself right there because he didn't get close enough. He needed to be closer coming out of that last turn.
Chaos at turn 1, I predict.
They're picking up a lot of dust here.
Everybody blocking everybody else.
Now, how are the tyres going to work to get around here?
Remember the incident in Imola with Pantano and Bell when Pantano...
Training every sinew, these guys. Whoa, Pantano locks up. Liuzzi right behind Townsend Bell.
There is that one last part of the track that was reconfigured going into turn 12.
Wirdheim thanking his lucky stars that Pantano is busy blocking these other two guys and not trying to get around him. Not that makes much difference to Wirdheim, of course, because he's already locked the championship up. But that second place is wide open, and all three of these guys, except, of course, Townsend Bell, is really out of it. Very important for Liuzzi and Pantano to get points.
Liuzzi looking left, right, left again, but just nowhere to go.
And we know that Liuzzi's car is fast, because when he led this race, he was just gone. Him and Friesacker were absolutely gone.
Friesacker barely hangs on. Liuzzi barely on. Friesacker casually, calmly goes by. He is going to win the Hungarian round of the Formula 3000 Championship. But the big question is, who's going to be second, third, fourth?
Here we go. Oh!
Pantano up.
And Townsend Bell is going to move up behind his teammate Bjorn Wirdheim.
Townsend Bell is going to get on the podium.
And Pantano is back behind Liuzzi. So Bjorn Wirdheim finishes second. Townsend Bell, the American, is third. It looks like Liuzzi got fourth, and then Pantano got fifth. Oh, what a last couple laps. You would have thought a championship was at stake there.
Not quite sure what happened there. I mean, good Lord alive. We were so busy looking at Friesacker, they missed the beginning of that incident. Wow, what a race.
Yeah, Patrick, go ahead. You earned it, buddy.
Nice job.
Let's take a look at the results where Patrick Friesacker has come away with the victory. This is the first one of his career. It looks like did he spin himself into trouble?
I think Liuzzi probably, I think something's broken. He looked coming across the line a bit crab-like.
Wirdheim second, Townsend Bell, the American, is third. Gian Maria's the final points position goes to Toccacello. Boy, what a race. First pit stops, and I can't wait to see the next round of this series. We only have one more to go. Well, that's going to do it for this round. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to join us tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern Time for live coverage of the Hungarian Grand Prix. So for David Hobbs, Steve Matchett, and Peter Windsor, I'm Rick DeBrule. We expect to see you back here tomorrow. Woo!